Let's talk about disease for a second. This process is also the cause of diabetes. When you keep subjecting your body to constant blood sugar spikes, and your pancreas is constantly releasing insulin to remove the extra sugar from your blood and shove it into your cells, eventually your cells stop listening to insulin. And this is known as insulin resistance. And you keep doing this and then you'll have full-on diabetes. And if you want to see some really gross pictures, go and Google diabetes foot rot, and you'll see what happens when you have diabetes. Your body parts can't get energy, so they turn black and they die, and you have to amputate. Let's talk about cancer. Cancer cells thrive on sugar. That's why in order to find where a tumor is located, oncologists will do something called a PET scan. And in a PET scan, you inject radioactively labeled sugar molecules into somebody's system. The radioactively labeling part is so that they can track the sugar with a machine. But you inject sugar into a person's system, and you watch where the sugar accumulates. And what will happen is that you'll see that all the sugar is being gobbled up by these cancer cells. This is research that's going to become more and more mainstream over the next 5 to 10 years. So it's very much in our interest to stop subjecting our bodies to this process. So what do I do to prevent this? The first thing is to reduce your sugar and white carbohydrate intake. Only use them as the treat. I do it once every 2 weeks. Substitute those with whole grains, beans, vegetables, and fruit. They have a lot of fiber, so they digest nice and slowly. The main idea is that your body can use the carbs at the speed that whole grains digest, so there is no overflow, which leads to fat storage. Also, we need to add healthy fats to each meal. We talked about, in my appetite video, how healthy fats, including saturated fats, stabilize your appetite and keep you full longer. So it's important to add these to your meals. So going back to the different types of carbs, we have sugar, white carbohydrates, and whole grains, which also includes beans and fruit for our purposes. Sugar and white carbohydrates are quick carbs, and whole grains are slow carbs. Okay, so we want to eat only slow carbs. Well, how do we find slow carbs in the store? How do you tell just by looking at them if you're not in the produce aisle? If you're in the produce aisle, chances are very good that it is a slow carb. It's all vegetables and fruit. But what about if you're in the other aisles and you're looking at boxes? What about cereals and breads? Well, let's take a look at that real quick, because I am very in favor of the notion of integrating healthy choices into your life slowly. We all have very busy lives, and we don't want to get stressed out about completely changing up our diet. So do it one thing at a time. This will help you out in that respect. One thing that you need to learn how to do in order to be able to pick out the right carbohydrates for your body is to do a little bit of label reading. What I do when I look at a nutrition label, I have a rule, and that is if the food has at least 3 grams of fiber per 20 grams of carbohydrates, then I can classify that as a slow carb. If it has less than 3 grams of fiber per 20 grams of carbohydrates, then I classify that as a quick carb, and I do not buy that carb. That's a really good way just to look at boxes, because a lot of the foods out there have a lot of carbs in them and very little fiber. This is how to find if they are quick or slow carbs by looking at the box. So, okay, now we know how to pick out slow carbs from quick carbs. But how many carbs should we be eating per day? A good rule of thumb is to keep it under 100 grams of carbs per day. You should really aim for 20 to 25 grams of carbs per meal, no more. You can go less if you want to, but no more. So, okay, what does 20 to 25 grams of carbs look like?